Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Foreign Correspondents Club of Japan. My name is Patrick Soll, and I'm the East Asia correspondent of the Swiss newspaper Neue Zürcher Zeitung. Today, we have a guest. It would take a few hours to really describe her career. I'll do it in a few seconds. She's probably one of Taiwan's most best-known democracy advocates. She's a very well-known feminist. She's a former political prisoner. She's the former vice president of Taiwan, and her name is Annette Lu. Please give her a hand. Annette Lu will talk about 20 minutes or so about Taiwan's options in a changing Asia-Pacific, and then we have at least 40 minutes for questions and answers. Before I forget, please turn off your mobile phones so they don't disturb us. So please, Annette Lu.
All the distinguished correspondents from all the world. First of all, I appreciate for the generous support of Foreign Correspondents Club of Tokyo. Secondly, may I present you my colleague who are with us, the former Minister of Defense, Dr. Hsiu-lien. Next, the former Deputy Secretary of National Security Council, Dr. Paris Zhang. Four years ago, I came to visit the disaster areas suffered from March 11 earthquake and tsunami. By then, people in Taiwan shared deeply with the griefness of Japanese and made a great contribution, demonstrating that Taiwan and Japan are the best neighbors. This time I come to Tokyo to see how prosperous and vigorous Japan has become under the excellent leadership of Prime Minister Abe, including the active participation of women in politics. Today, I'm honored to speak before you on Taiwan's new option in the future, a national plebiscite for peace and neutrality, which we have been launching and going on. As everyone concerns, the Asia-Pacific has become a key engine of global politics and global economy. We all concerned the balance of power in Asia-Pacific will be challenged by the rising China. China's President Xi Jinping made his first statement regarding foreign policy at his party's political bureau in January of 2013. He stressed on the core national interests, including territory, sovereignty, security, stability, and development, and added that China would never make any concession on those core interests. He also spoke to the military that to enrich the country and to empower the army, 富国强兵 are their Chinese dream, a dream to make China a great power in this century. Back in the spring of 2007, a Chinese military leader proposed to the U.S. Pacific Commander, Admiral Timothy Keating, that the Pacific Ocean should be managed jointly by China and America on each side, namely Hawaii to the east for the U.S. and Hawaii to the west for China. The policy of joint management of the Pacific apparently has become part of China's realm of great power. In recent years, Beijing has taken provocative and aggressive actions to neighboring territorial seas in both East China Sea and South China Sea to bolster its marine claims, causing conflicts with Japan, the Philippines, and Vietnam. To respond to China, President Obama has initiated and sought a pivot to Asia policy to reassure America's allies and partners, and to counterbalance China's militant and aggressive pursuit of its territorial expansion and dominance of the region. In addition, the pivot seeks also to expand trade and investment and to advance democracy and human rights in this region. The U.S. also insists that freedom of navigation and overflight in the Asia Pacific is its vital national interest. The 21st century looks like to be a competition between the Chinese dragon and the American eagle. But which one will be the winner? Ironically and surprisingly, with disappointment, the Obama administration has rarely mentioned Taiwan in the context of the pivot. The Taiwan matter or not? Some U.S. analysts have called attention to the significant strategic role that Taiwan could and should play in the U.S. pivot economically, politically, and militarily. Why, in an article, why the U.S. military needs Taiwan states that Taiwan is a core interest of the United States and has pivotal role to play as an ad hoc coalition partner. Likewise, another essay on Taiwan's critical role in the U.S. pivot to Asia argued that Taiwan could contribute important cyber knowledge, communication capabilities, and intelligence to the United States defense effort in the Asia-Pacific region. Geopolitically and strategically, Taiwan is located in the middle of the first island chain. While the United States tries to strengthen the first island chain, China tries to breach the chain. Owning Taiwan, China's naval ships and aircraft can have free access to the Pacific Ocean and directly challenge the U.S.-Japan alliance. But if Taiwan was forced by China to start political talks and finally agree on signing confidence-building measures and peace accord under the One China framework, Taiwan will become another Hong Kong. China will breach the first island chain and control the East China Sea, South China Sea, and Taiwan Strait. In other words, China would obtain free access to the ocean in between the first and the second island chain, a great menace to the balance of power in this region. Small in size, but Taiwan harbors 26 principal surface cabinets in 5 naval bases. Additional 8 commercial or industrial ports can be converted for military purpose in time of war. No less than 23 larger fishing ports are capable for the anchorage of newly commissioned first missile boat. Taiwan's air forces have some 300 frontline combat fighters stationed at 5 major bases. Small in size, Taiwan is studied in military strength. Politically, Taiwan is the lighthouse of liberty and success in Asia. Its unique development in human rights, democracy, peace, love, and high-tech, so-called soft power, elaborate the strength of Taiwan. Taiwan has created and enriched those universal values to enlighten people living in the communist regime. Integrating Taiwan with the democracy allies will consolidate the strength to defend and develop the Asia-Pacific. Economically, Taiwan is the 10th largest partner to the United States and the 4th to Japan. It ranks at 20th largest economy in the world in terms of purchasing power parity, ahead of Argentina, the Netherlands, Hong Kong, Sweden, and Singapore. Even on a strictly per capita GDP basis, Taiwan ranks 23rd in the world, 27th in the world, ahead of United Kingdom, Japan, the EU, and South Korea. Similarly, Taiwan ranks 20th in the world according to the Heritage Foundation, the most recent index of economical freedom, well above China's ranking in 136. The people of Taiwan have much to be proud of. We struggled and fought hard, and I personally have spent nearly 2,000 days in there to fight for freedom and democracy. To do away with the yoke of KMT nationalist dictatorship, and also to build a system of democracy, freedom, and human rights. Taiwan has stood in stark contrast with the Marxist-Leninist communist rule of one-party state on mainland. Last year, college students in Taiwan occupied the parliamentary chamber to protest against President Ma's pro-China policies. Last November, Taiwanese citizens vote against the ruling party, making the KMT suffer a crushing defeat, and my party, the DPP, scored an impressive victories. Everybody has reason to expect that in next January's presidential election, DPP would come over again to govern Taiwan. Beijing has much at stake in changes in Taiwan's government leadership and in cross-strait policy. Beijing has been exerting greater pressure on President Ma to enter a peace agreement and eventual unification or surrender. President Xi Jinping will try to set the train in motion while President Ma remains in office till next May, and create an irreversible framework to lock Taiwan into the one China cage that could not be undone even if the DPP were to return to power next year. In fact, the PRC has designated a 3-year pivotal strategy, starting from this year, 2015, 16, and 17, to resolve so-called Taiwan problem. The first step is to seduce President Ma to surrender and to sign up the peace accord. And the second is to support the KMT candidate or any other candidate who can be controlled by them to win the next election. And the third part is to mobilize its front groups in Taiwan to run peaceful reunification campaign, provided that DPP won the election next year. In other words, in this 3 years, it's very critical for the destiny of Taiwan. For all these purposes, Taiwanese businessmen and men are forced to oppose my party, DPP, and China is suspected to have financed the pro-Beijing candidate in Taiwan's elections. Moreover, the world's once tallest building, Taipei 101, seems to have become China's Trojan horse, secret liaison headquarters. Not only thousands of Chinese tourists visit there every day, also some Chinese VIPs use the venue to meet with Taiwanese politicians and businessmen there. If Taiwan were annexed by the PRC, imagine what the situation would be in the region. Remember that Taiwan has 5 naval bases, 8 commercial or industrial ports, converted for military purpose, plus 34 larger fishing ports on the island. Imagine what PRC would take advantage of all this infrastructure. Concerned that Taiwan's security and sovereignty is being gradually negotiated away and taken over by China, a group of civic organizations has founded a Peace and Neutrality for Taiwan Alliance. The alliance recruits peace ambassadors in Taiwan and abroad to actively promote its cause at home and overseas, including Taiwanese businessmen based in the States, Japan, Central and South America, and even Africa. It is a campaign not only across the nations, also across the parties. As in the case of armed neutrality in Switzerland and Sweden, Taiwan will need to build up and strengthen its national defense to safeguard its security and neutrality. Both United States and Japan consider a self-ruled Taiwan an integral part of Japan's security and of vital interest to the United States. In the wake of a 2+2 meeting between the American Secretaries of State and Defense and their Japanese counterpart in 2005, the two allies affirmed their common interest in safeguarding peace and security in the Taiwan Strait. As a state of neutrality, Taiwan would be of immense importance to Japan, India, and the whole ASEAN. It will bolster freedom of navigation and safety in Taiwan and Bass Strait, 2 important pathways for international air and sea transport. with over 1,000 of planes and vessels passing through these waters and airspace above Leyden. The outcome of the plebiscite and the Taiwanese people's quest for neutrality is a clear answer to Beijing's plan to annex the nation. In strategic terms, a promotion of Taiwan's neutrality is a measure of preventive defense to counter China's plot of annexation. What is the alliance undertaking to achieve its goal? First of all, the alliance is collecting signatures by concerned citizens to initiate a national plebiscite on Taiwan's neutrality. This is the sample of the bill for signature we are launching. As soon as the 90,500 signatures are collected, which I expect to be done around May, we are going to propose the plebiscite. And then 10 more times of signature, namely around 900,000 and approximated new signatures will be needed to support the proposal. During Taiwan's local election last November, I spoke in support of candidates who support this campaign, and I received very positive, overwhelming support from the ordinary citizens. Many of the city council members agreed to join this campaign across the party. Next month after the trip, we are going to visit the United States. This couple of days, we visit as many as possible Japanese politicians and scholars who are concerned about the situation. I would like to share with you all the response is positive. In accordance with the law of plebiscite, a debate on the pros and the cons of neutrality needs to be conducted. Such a debate can be expected to generate widespreadly, to generate international publicity and bring attention on Taiwan's future, much like the independence referendum in Scotland last September. And your attention today, your attendance and attention today for this issue would be greatly helpful. Along with the public campaign, Taiwanese at home and abroad will work for international support and recognition, as Switzerland did in early 1815 and Turkmenistan in 1995. We have confidence to win it. The campaign for neutrality is a long journey. The procedure of a national plebiscite will be complicated, but the first step has been taken up. 120 years ago, Taiwan was ceded to Japan under the Treaty of Shimonoseki as a result of the defeat of China dynasty by Japan. Nothing to do with Taiwan, yet Taiwan became the victim. Today we are here in Tokyo not to complain about the past, rather to urge understanding and cooperation for the future. Sincerely and seriously, I urge friends in Japan and other parts of the world to support Taiwan to become a country for peace and neutrality. A neutralized country with self-defense strength and is ready to play more important role to promote soft power and smart power. Japan certainly will benefit from it since a neutral Taiwan takes no side in regional conflict, and Taiwan would not allow any other country to take advantage of its harbors and air forces in potential conflict, either in East China Sea or South China Sea. Japan and Taiwan has made a remarkable example in the year 2013 when a fishery agreement was signed between Japan and Taiwan to solve the dispute. That example is under consideration for another fishery agreement between Taiwan and Philippines. Taiwan certainly can play a very vigorous role to show the world that the world belongs to everybody, not to any strong country. We, as global citizens, should cherish each piece of the world to save the best environment for our next generation. In that regard, allow Taiwan to stand up, speak out, and take active participation. Thank you.
We go straight into questions and answer. Quick reminder, please introduce yourself with your name and your affiliation and keep your questions as short as possible. Yes, please, here.
Thank you very much for coming. I am Eto Takanori. I am working for internet news media Econews. How do you think of Mr. Edward Snowden? Is he a brave guardian of civil liberty or the traitor to his nation? And also, how do you evaluate the impacts of the behavior Edward Snowden had done and they're still ongoing? Thank you.
Sorry.
Edward Snowden.
Yes, Edward Snowden, the American.
Okay. Well, in regard to the respect and protection of individual liberty, I think he deserves our respect. I think the time has come that both the government and individual should be protected and respected.
Okay, Anthony, please.
Anthony Rowley, Singapore Business Times. If the plebiscite and the referendum are successful, that still does not underwrite or guarantee Taiwan's security. So what would you propose? Would you propose a joint mutual security treaty with the US and Japan to underwrite security? And also, if I could ask you quickly, if you clarify a little bit what you mean by the two island chains? I didn't quite understand that.
We certainly understand that to become neutrality doesn't mean to be well protected. So we made it clear that once Taiwan became a neutrality country, we certainly have strengthened our self-defense. And we need to develop our own national security defense strength. We also need more military support from different countries. Free access to arms sales and self-defense by ourselves.
And he also asked you to explain the second island chain.
Okay. Well, everybody knows that the first island chain started from Korea, Japan, Taiwan, and all the way to Singapore. The second island chain extended to Guam. In other words, Okinawa belongs to first island chain. Provided that Taiwan locates in the middle of the first island chain, just like a throat. Provided that Taiwan were taken over by China, China can take advantage of our harbors and military bases altogether and expand their marine power to have free access not only in Taiwan Strait, but also in the marine area between first and second island chain to challenge United States, don't mention to challenge Japan. So it's a really big issue.
Can I quickly follow up on Anthony's first question, the security question? President Ma launched what he calls the East China Sea Peace Initiative. What do you make of this initiative?
Yes. President Ma Ying-jeou proposed a peace code for the behavior in Eastern Coast, which has won some credit internationally. Partially, I agree with him to put aside of the sovereignty dispute. But I personally, in the past couple of years, have been advocating even one step beyond, namely to preserve all the disputed marine area for the development of a marine park. Everybody safe, respect those areas, no further develop, to reserve it as a marine park, to save for our next generation, to maintain neutrality within the 12 miles away from the island, non-violence, non-nuclear. I think that's the best way to solve all the problems.
Okay, Pio, please.
Pio D'Emilia from Italy, Sky TG24. Allow me to try to understand a little bit better from the international law point of view your concept of neutrality. Because this is pretty much what happened in the past when you were in power the first time with DPP. You were looking at the time for independence, at least as a wish, and it didn't work out. You lost consent on that. Before being neutral, you mentioned Switzerland and Turkmenistan, I think. Before becoming neutral, you must become a country. And you are not a country.
We
basically.
are a country.
Yes, okay. You're a country, everybody understands this, but juridically you are not a recognized country from international law point of view. So there is no way that you can become a neutral country if you don't have the international recognition as a country, okay? So instead of trying to find out yet another way to distance yourself from Beijing, I wonder if inside your party there is not another faction, another way of thinking that goes toward exploiting the new leadership, the new dream of China, and granting full, total respect and autonomy instead of looking for, another way of calling for independence. Especially now that your economy is almost totally linked with China.
Thank you for your question. But countries are made by people. Before the war, there were not many countries as now they have. Taiwan has been an independent country for decades, with or without recognized. It's all because of the ridiculous policies implemented by the former administration's government. That's why in the year 2000, my boss, former President Chen Shui-bian, and me overturned the regime. And that's the fact that in last election, people cast a vote to deny their pro-China's policy. So it's time for people to make a decision. And we come here to speak on behalf of more and more people to support, for the support. According to the most recent poll, over 85% of people in Taiwan identify and agree that Taiwan has become a country. Starting from 1996, all the citizens in Taiwan were allowed to elect the national leader president. Every 4 years, we have presidential election. That's the fact that Taiwan has become an independent sovereign state. And next year, very likely, DPP will take over the power, and that's our platform. Make it clear Taiwan is Taiwan, China is China. However, we would like to maintain good and peaceful relations with all the countries, certainly including China. Personally, long years ago, I made it clear that Taiwan and China have special relationship. Like historically, we are cousins. Geographically, we are neighbors. 远亲近邻. So therefore, when DPP take power again, it doesn't mean that the DPP will fight against China. We want to maintain the status policy, namely to be friendly with America, friendly with Japan, and peaceful with China as well.
Let me follow up on this. President Ma has taken Taiwan much closer to China than it has been for 50 years.
Yes.
The links are very, very tight now, especially on the economic level. Has he gone too far?
Yes, that's worried. That's bothered everybody. That's why in last March, young generation stood up, occupied the chamber of Congress to show their anger. They don't want them to destroy their future because the businessmen closed their manufacturers at home and offices at home and do business with China, making the young generation jobless. They know that. They're angry. They stand up. And they vote. They went to vote. Universities and NGOs donate free buses to encourage college students, go home to vote for your future. That's why last year's election, young generation made their choice to deny the pro-China's policy.
William, please.
William Esposado, freelance writer. The economy has not been doing particularly well under President Ma, but it did even worse under the Democratic presidency some years ago. What is going to be your economic game plan if you get back into power, given the dependence on China? If they want to close things in on you, what are you going to do to get the economy moving again? You didn't do so well last time around.
In fact, during our administration, between 2000 and 2008, many index demonstrate we didn't do a bad job. Comparatively to Ma's administration, we did a better job. Even so, as I just mentioned briefly, to show the economic status of Taiwan, among the world nations, we're not that bad. We are the fourth largest partner to Japan and 10th partner to the United States, given the fact Taiwan is so small an island. So next year, if DPP win over, and young generation, they realize their future should be on not only Taiwan, but to join the international community. We have to internationalize Taiwan. If we can play more active role in different aspects with the world, we believe that Taiwan can play very, very good contribution. For instance, I observed Cross-strait. On each occasion of any kind of international competition, young student, college student, even adult, they go to run competition, and always they brought home gold medal. They are the winner. So we absolutely have confidence that Taiwan's future count on the future of Taiwanese people, young generation. If the politician can change their mind, someone like President Ma, he has been educated to return to China. His father educated him to prevent Taiwan independence and to bring Taiwan back to China. It's no secret. That's why so many people feel regretful who voted for him before. So big change now.
On the economic question William raised, how much does the diplomatic isolation of Taiwan impede the economic development of the island? For example, when it comes to free trade agreements, Beijing makes big pressure on almost any country to sign a free trade agreement with Beijing first, before doing the same with Taipei. Although under WTO rules, any WTO member can sign a free trade agreement with Taiwan. How much of an impediment is this?
Yes, so we understand and we concern the isolation of Taiwan from international. That's why we have to do something to create a new access for Taiwan. We chose to seek for neutrality, to be away from China's control. I think the international society listened to the voice of people. That's why we chose to launch a national plebiscite. This is a modern society. Everything should be decided not by any single person, even the president. While the majority of people decided that their future, it deserves everybody's respect. I took lessons from Baltic, for instance. Baltic state had been ruled by Hitler, by Stalin, totally for 50 years. But eventually, they overturned all the dictators and to become independent peacefully throughout the plebiscite. So it's people's power, people's voice that deserves support. And I strongly believe the Taiwanese people are one of the most peaceful, most educated, and good-hearted people. We deserve better respect and welcome. In this couple of days, we visited from Osaka to Tokyo. We feel very proud because Japanese people recognize us. They consider Taiwan are very friendly and very important. And most of them, I wouldn't dare to give your names, but they all show their respect for this moment. We want to create a new future for us. In terms of population, in terms of geographical size, Taiwan is small, but middle small, not that small. Among the UN members, we are ahead of 50 states. In terms of economy, we are ahead of 20. It's worth a fault to ignore Taiwan. It's not our fault. Our fault should be reliable by our formal administration. So next year, people want to kick them out. We want to have a new future. And I think this choice, we just want to maintain peace and neutrality. This simple, moderate dream deserves your respect and support.
There was a question there. Yes, please.
Takashi Koyama, freelance. What kind of security arrangements do you have with the United States? For instance, if a third country attacks your country, do you expect the United States to take certain action or no action?
Thank you. Well, United States did recognize Taiwan since 1979, but thanks to their Congress, a Taiwan Relation Act was enacted and has been implemented for over 36 years. Based on the principles and provisions of Taiwan Relations Act, the relationship substantially between United States and Taiwan has been maintained. We thank for that. But we believe the relationship can be improved. It's time to consider to normalize the relationship. The same request will be made also to urge Japanese government, Japanese politicians and people to consider to start normalizing the relationship with Taiwan. It's time.
As we're here in Japan, could you elaborate a little bit on Taiwanese-Japanese relations? Because one thing which is striking compared to China or to South Korea, the view in Taiwan is much, much better, the view of Japan. Could you elaborate a little bit on the relationship between Japan and Taiwan?
According to recent polls, both conducted in Japan and in China, near the coincidence, 90% of those interviewed in Japan says that Taiwan is their best friend. The same result in Taipei conducted. 90% Taiwanese believe Japan is their best friend. So it's time really to urge a normalization between Japan and Taiwan as the first step. And next month we are going to visit the United States. We want to convey the message, request them to reconsider how to renew the relationship with Taiwan.
Yeah. Okay, gentleman there. Yes, please.
Thank you. I'm Yoshi Nagaoka of Newsweek Japan. My question is simple. How do you prospect next year Taiwan presidential election? And as you said, if DPP and Tsai Ing-wen win, the relationship between Taiwan and mainland China, how this relationship changes? Thank you.
Thank you. Basically speaking, one has reason, as I said before, one has reason to believe, to expect that DPP would win and Taiwan would have the first female president next year. Speaking of our China policy, we made it clear that Taiwan has been an independent sovereign state. Yet, we need more recognition, and we need more understanding with China. DPP's door will be open to China for further exchange programs. If the PRC truly listen to the voice of Taiwanese people, they should change their attitude and policy to maintain a new relationship with Taiwan.
Okay, I think Anthony has a second question, and then Pio. Anthony first.
The problem is that anyone who is a friend of Taiwan is by definition an enemy of China. And the China market is so huge that presumably very few countries are going to be prepared to support Taiwan if it prejudices their access to the China market. How do you get over that? And very quickly, I'm not a military expert, obviously, but for a long time, Taiwan had the ability to defend itself, but China's making enormous strides militarily. If China were to launch an attack on Taiwan now, could Taiwan still defend itself?
We agree that the ties between Taiwan and China has been enhanced under Ma's administration economically and even politically. That's why more and more people concerned and showed their disagreement with pro-China's policies. Although superficially people feel that it's so easy to make money in China, the fact is many of overseas Taiwanese experiences are not that happy. They just wouldn't dare to speak out. Only those who succeed will make noise. Many who were frustrated, who were jailed, who suffered, they lost their voice. And some even predict that in the coming years, China might have their internal problems. So we already began to encourage our businessmen to go to Yunnan, to Indonesia, and to Southeast China for next market. I believe you all understand that.
Second question was about the ability of Taiwan to defend itself. Do you want to answer that, or shall we ask your former Minister of Defense, Mr. Tsai?
Yeah.
As you like.
Yeah. Would you welcome our former Minister of Defense to answer this question?
Yes.
Dr. Tsai?
In Taiwan, sometimes we joke that there's no free lunch. So I got a free lunch, I had to speak out. The self-defense for Taiwan, I think this is a very important question, not only for Taiwan, but also for Japan and the United States. I think, personally, I should admit that the balance of power across the Taiwan Strait is tipping toward China starting from the last 5 or 6 years. By saying that, I think we have a security arrangement or agreement with the United States, and with the support of the United States, with the support of the Japanese government and the people for the common security, regional security cooperation. I think for our part in Taiwan, we should and we will increase our defense budget close to 3% of our national GDP. That's much higher than Japan. Japan has about 1% GDP for Japan's national defense. In the future, if the DPP comes to power next year, I would strongly recommend the new president to increase our national defense budget. And then secondly, start from 15 years ago, including the period of DPP government from year 2000 to 2008, we start doing the very important research and development for our defense capability, including high-speed missile boat. We can design and manufacture ourselves. This 32 high-speed missile boat is now in service, patrolling the coastal area around Taiwan, including Taiwan Strait, to ensure that the PLA would not invade Taiwan easily. And also, we did develop, we call it the deterrent capability, including the short range, and the medium range of the missile for self-defense, and also to deter China from taking the provocative aggression. And recently, we also designed and developing the UAV, unmanned aircraft. That's already in service. So that among others, we will not depend 100% on the U.S. or the French support, just like in the past. We will depend more or less on our own feet for the self-defense capabilities. And of course, what more important is we are not depend on the military personnel only for self-defense. I think we would call for the national people stand up to defend and safeguard the security of Taiwan, just like Israel, like Singapore. Every young people, and also those retired reserve, we are called upon to stand up to defend and safeguard the Taiwan in the case there's a conflict or confrontation across the Taiwan Strait. This is what I'm quite sure the new government in Taiwan will contact all this external and internal, and also the relationship between China. Just like Honorable Madam Lu mentioned that we will working even closer with the United States and Japan, but we will call for the peaceful coexistence with China. Hopefully, we'll have a peace and security across Taiwan Strait, as long as in the peace and security in Asian Pacific. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister. Maybe our former Deputy Secretary of National Security, Dr. Zhang, will add some more.
Question of Taiwan's security arrangement has been raised. Well, back in 1979, when the United States derecognized Republic of China on Taiwan and normalized relation with China, U.S. Congress, for the interest of the United States, adopted the Taiwan Relation Act and provide protective relation over Taiwan because of U.S. own interest. Now, as a professor of international politics, I realized that a major power for its own interest would do something without a treaty, without a kind of a specific arrangement. But a big country doesn't want you, even you have a treaty, an alliance won't do anything. So, United States will continue to look at Taiwan as a very important strategically. We don't need to talk about the specific arrangement because we have no diplomatic relation. But for U.S. own interest, such kind of protective relationship will remain there. You all remember a bigger country than Taiwan, Poland, back in 1939. Well, Hitler, Nazi Germany invaded. And then, of course, a number of European countries finally came to Poland's aid without much really help. This means that if nations continue to patronize China, then of course Taiwan, however strong for our self-defense, we can help ourselves alone. So it's important that really for regional security, many countries should share the same burden for the peace and security. And Taiwan will do its own share. Earlier, Michael Tsai talked about that. I think Taiwan has a very important strategic weapon system, our cyber warfare. You all know that Taiwan has a very good information technology. And this is one area we can do lots of wonder. Of course, China has a very big so-called internet army. Now, Taiwan could develop that. We don't have to kill them, but we can defend ourselves. But we only hope that the international community will not allow China to become hegemonic in Asia Pacific. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I think Mr. Zhang and Mr. Tsai both earned their lunch very well. Thank you very much. We're running short out of time, but we asked before we could add another 10 minutes or so. Is that okay?
I'm okay.
Okay, Pio, please go ahead. There's a question after this.
Well, before going into my question, if I'm allowed a small comment, I don't see very much how these last two speeches conjunct well with the concept of neutrality, but this is up to you. My question is, in the past, Taiwan has been known for very big issues among human rights, but when DPP came into power the first time, there was a huge, better situation, and Taiwan has become probably in Asia one of the countries with the best record of human rights, especially from a legal point of view. So I would like to have a very frank answers from you. Is the DPP, once back in power, going to abolish the death penalty, which is now in moratorium? And is the DPP, the new government, trying to solve a little bit the issue of Chen Shui-bian situation by doing some kind of general amnesty or something that would bring him back to freedom?
Well, we understand that this penalty has been intensively urged to be abolished. And during our administration, President Chen and me held up 6 or 8 decisions to sentence to this. But under next administration, they did execute some. So I'm not sure whether Taiwan society is ready to accept a no more death penalty. But we are in the process of release it. That you can trust. So maybe we still need a little more time to educate the general public to accept it. But we are in the process. Talking about former President Chen Shui-bian's case, as you know that I took a hungry strike. These two gentlemen, former minister and former secretary from national security, they all share me to join me for hungry strike. I ended the strike after 81 hours when I was enforced to be hospitalized. But I'm very glad that President Chen finally was released. Currently, he is at home for further medical care. Physically and mentally, he has been very ill. His hand has been shaking, and he cannot speak as arrogant as before. And also, his brain has been damaging. He cannot walk stably. It's really in a very critical moment. The first 5 years of his imprisonment, even without my notice, he was imprisoned in a very small cell with another prisoner. Two of them share a small cell smaller than everyone's bedroom. He was not allowed to have a bed. He slept on the floor. One day when I went to see him, I was amazed to see all his hand had some black spot. I asked why, what happened? He said, well, this early morning there came a shower, and all of a sudden hundreds of ants coming up to bite over his body. Then for the first time he told me I was sleeping on the floor, the quilt. He put the quilt, and the ant had a nest under the quilt. All of a sudden, hundreds of ants came to beat. I was so mad. So I argued with the authority. After a year later, he was removed to a better prison. That's the situation. So we fought and fought. And finally, I decided to take a hunger strike. And good thing is, he was released, even temporarily, on medical parole. But I know he need much longer time, really, to recover. I even wonder whether he can really recover. So thank you for your concern. And I have to add one more. For those who got impression that he was corrupted, it's not quite true. He had been indicted for 6 cases, but 3 of the 6 were proven to be innocent. Other 3, in fact, have been suspended. And even the whole trial, judicial trial, was not appropriate. That's why we support him.
A question there, yes, please.
Thomas Sullivan, no affiliation. Madame Lu, thank you very much for coming today. I was wondering if you could comment on the Ukrainian Crimea situation, and are there any important lessons there that the DPP and yourself have learned from that, and how do you assess the U.S. reaction to events in Crimea, Ukraine, and possibly also the China reaction to events there? Thank you.
Thank you for your big questions. Well, from Taiwan's point of view, we pay close attention what's going on in Ukraine, because many of us are really concerned what happened in Korea might be happening in Taiwan. So we certainly wish more international support to protect the freedom and independence of Ukraine. The way that Russia has been doing, we worry that also the PRC is doing toward Taiwan. So I think not only United States, Japan, and many other free countries should speak loudly to protect for the true human right and freedom for people in Ukraine.
To draw another parallel, the situation in Hong Kong and the way China dealt with the demonstrations in Hong Kong, what does that mean for Taiwan?
Okay, in fact, last year when all of a sudden it took place, a Mayflower moment in Taipei, every day we went to meet with the young people to observe what happened in there. The first day certainly was just only Taiwanese young people gathered there, and their professors came to offer classes on the street for those who are interested in training. So all of a sudden that area become, on the street outdoor classroom for 24 hours. And then about starting from 4 to 5 days later, I noticed that more and more people with buses come. And then there are tourists from Hong Kong, there are tourists from mainland China. They all went there to learn democracy from Taiwan. So Taiwan can serve as a lighthouse for democracy and for peace. Very interesting.
Okay, I think you have a last question here. Okay, Sonia, please, the last question.
Sonja Blaschke, I'm a freelance journalist from Germany, and I have a quick question about what you said in the beginning. You praised Mr. Abe for his policy with regard to women, and as you were a feminist, I was, to be honest, a little bit surprised by your praise. Can you elaborate a little bit more on your stance towards his policy and maybe also in comparison to Taiwan? Thank you.
Thank you. Which country?
Germany.
Germany, good. Japan is the first country in Asia to have the first women party chairwoman. Also later became the Speaker of the House, Doi. Korea is the first country in Asia to have, no, not the first, but in North and East Asia. Korea currently as having a first female president. As I say, the next year, Taiwan will have another woman president. That means the world should be changed. Throughout the human histories, more than 90% of war had been declared by men, yet women are the big victims. Not only women themselves, their beloved children, their beloved husband was sacrificed. I always urge women to think further. Either you cry over the sacrifice of war, or you stand up and earn the decision power to say yes or no for peace or for war. Currently, to my knowledge, there are 10 countries under the rule of women. One of those I personally admire most is the Prime Minister in Germany, Madame Merkel. I know she stands for a role model for women in politics. She has my respect. I'm not the president, but I won vice president as the first woman. What I'm more proud of is I'm the only 2 terms vice president ever elected in Taiwan. All the other vice presidents only served 4 years. I was honored to serve for 8 years. And I'm more than happy to see Dr. Tsai Ing-wen, much younger than me, could become the first woman president. Well, not too long before we can expect the first lady president to rule United States of America. So it's time for change, politically and economically. 21st century is century for Hsiu economy. According to international World Bank investigation study, 80% of consumers' decision is made by women. Take a look of all the shopping area. Most of commerce are waiting for women to purchase. If women are the most important consumer, why cannot women become a good producer, designer? So 21st century is a century for change. From gender perspective, from many other perspectives, for environment. So the concept of state sovereignty also should be changed. That concept is out of date now. Each country is just a part of the world. All the people are the masters of the earth. And our generation, we should think of their justice. Don't develop too much to save the earth for our next generation. That's why in the past couple of years, I advocate actively to let Diaoyutai Senkaku Island preserve as what it is now. That's co-managed for marine park, not only in Senkaku Island area, in South China Sea, everywhere. We need to save something, some places for our next generation. Don't be that greedy. In sake of economical interest, we also need to think of social justice for minority, for poor country. And I think when the world is divided a half by women, all the philosophy, the value can be changed.
Well, I think that's a very nice final word, so we're going to wrap it up here. Thank you very, very much for coming, Ms. Lu.
Thank you.
And this is our tradition here that we give out.
Can I have a brief conclusion? Okay.
You already made one, but you can have another one if you like.
Okay. Well, again, I reiterate my appreciation for so many in attendance today to show your concern about Taiwan, about this area, and about our common future. To share with you my personal story, I grew up from a very ordinary people. Before twice in my childhood, I was nearly adopted. My parents wanted me to be adopted simply because they feel that I could have better life with other families. Thanks to my brother, I stayed home. My parents decided to educate me as much as to my brother. I grew up with anger because so often I saw the whole society mistreated women. I didn't want to be a woman, So I fought. That's why, as early as 1970, I started women's movement in Taiwan. At that time, it was very conservative. And I was assaulted as, a crazy girl, whatever. I invited all the insult. However, I proceed on. Now I'm very proud to share with you that women's status in Taiwan rank almost number 1 in Asia and top 10 in the world. Besides that, we grew up under the 38 years martial law rule. Freedom to express, freedom to assemble, freedom to anything was strictly restricted. We fought, we sacrificed. For a speech of 20 minutes I made at an International Human Rights Day in 1979, I delivered a speech of 20 minutes, absolutely peaceful. 3 days later, I was the first one arrested. Eventually, I was sentenced to 12 years. I spent 6 years in prison. When I was first brought to the court, military court, along with 7 other co-defendants, we couldn't believe that there were 15 young lawyers waiting for us to defend. Eventually, we were well defended. Originally, they wanted to execute us, including me. But gradually, because of concern and support from domestic and international, none of us had been executed. However, we were all sentenced to 12 years. But nobody would ever think that 20 years later, one of the lawyers, in fact, the youngest lawyer, Chen Shui-bian, would pick up one of the so-called violence seditious element, which is me. We run together in the year 2000 as the candidate for president and vice president. Peacefully, we made the landslide victory, and we overturned the regime. If Taiwanese can write this kind of history, we have confidence that other parts of the world can also write another victory. And we are more than happy to share with our experiences. The way that the whole society, international community treated Taiwan was not only unfair, but also unreasonable. Cannot just because China is not happy. The world is not lived to make one single person or single country happy. We need more justice. Encourage Taiwan to play a fair, active role. I think we need your support. Thank you.
Thank you very much again. And our way to say thank you is to give you a 1-year honorary membership of the Foreign Correspondents Club of Japan. We hope to have you back very often.
That means you welcome me to come back in the near
We
future?
want you to come back, definitely.
Okay. Well, I just know that the chair of today, Patrick, came from Sweden, and our campaign really make Sweden our dream land. So I have a special gift for you to invite you as one of our Peace ambassador.
Wow. Thank you.
Congratulations. You're certainly a very good advisor.
Thank you. Thank you.